everybody, we are here with Josh Wallace and Devin Doss. They are the writer, director team, and producing and everything team
Yeah.
behind Keeping Company from 1091 Pictures. That's going to be available on VOD June 7th. Josh, Devin, how are you guys?
We
Doing
are
great.
good. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Thank you for coming on and chatting about your film. Incidentally, can you tell us about your film, Keeping Company?
Sure.
Devin, you want to do that? You do the best at this.
That's a lot of pressure now.
You're the performer.
God. Yes, sure. Our movie Keeping Company is a social satire that follows a fateful chain of events that begin to unravel after a couple of insurance salesmen, the two guys behind you on your background there. They go knocking on the wrong door and they find themselves trapped inside of a serial killer's basement. Essentially, it's just an ensemble horror comedy that we just look to explore if you can tell the difference between suburban serial killers and ruthless corporate salesmen. So
and basically there is no difference.
Exactly. That's the point.
How'd the idea come about?
Where do we start with it? For us, it started off as kind of like this, just two friends getting kidnapped was kind of the original conceit. It was like a buddy, like Devin and I grew up in the comedy scene. So it was just kind of like a buddy comedy that we were writing. And as we kept writing it, like we started to begin to realize themes, these bigger themes kept coming up, and we were so attracted to those bigger themes. And I think obviously seeing the movie, that it has a lot to say about society and whatnot and how it all operates. And so we decided to not shy away from that. And so that's where the horror aspect of it really started to blend into the comedy in a way bigger way. But yeah, it started off more lighthearted than where it ended up, which is also kind of how the movie plays anyway.
Well, and Josh and I, like you said, come from comedy backgrounds. We love horror, thriller. We're film nerds all around. Came from a comedy background, and for us, when we started writing it, it was a broad buddy comedy that we soon realized we're like, oh, why are we trying to fit ourselves into this mold of like the studio level buddy comedy that kind of it's dead. It's not alive anymore in film. It's not really what people care to see. And also we just were like, hey, this is our first movie. We're going to make it on our own. Let's try and stand out and do something that feels original and unique to us and to our voice only. That's something that only we could kind of conceive. And we just kind of ran with that. And here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so funny because that kind of covered my next question, because I was curious, as you guys both started off in short form content on Funny Guy and comedy, and I was going to ask how you decided on making horror as opposed to just the comedy, but it was the commentary in the comedy.
I think we just found we soon realized we're like, why, the tone just started getting muddled because we were trying to balance this weird broad buddy comedy with weird tones and themes that were coming in that we were so excited by. We were like, wait, we're so excited by the weirdness that's coming out of this that let's not ignore it. Let's just follow it and let's trust, and then we leaned into inspirations of ours from the horror and thriller.
Yeah, we're both, again, like Devin said, we're both big horror fans as well. So that just ended up being a kind of a natural, a nice thing for us to get to play in that world within this. So
yeah.
What do you think what makes horror and comedy kind of blend so well together?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I think it's they marry so well together because you need levity. You can't have you can't be scared constantly or on the edge of your seat constantly because then eventually it gets boring. You know what I mean? You need that levity that like alleviates some of the air, and then it makes whatever's right around the corner that much scarier, that much more tense, you know? So like when you have the moments of levity and comedy, especially when it's coming from a character who usually those are the beloved characters that are just like, you know, that provide that comedic relief. When it's coming from that place, it becomes more haunting, honestly, because you let your guard down for a second when you add in the comedy, and I think that's why they work and pair so well together.
I think both like are also tools of examination of kind of, you know, what, and especially in this movie for us, it was like, well, how do we see the world, you know, and you can do that through a nice comedic lens, and you do that through a nice horror lens as well, and that's kind of why both marry into each other, is because that the way that satire plays, or the way you play with metaphor and meaning, really in both genres, they're probably two of the best to do that through. And also they both of them elicit, you know, big emotional reactions from somebody, whether that's, you know, laughing through comedy or just being terrified through horror.
I mean, what is the difference between a laugh and a scream?
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Can you tell us about the major differences between creating a short versus a feature? Like, what's involved in making an idea work for 90 minutes as opposed to just like 5?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I don't think we've come across that yet.
No, that's a great question. And I'll say, I truly think that between the two of us, Josh is way stronger at short form comedy than I am. Short form, not just comedy, but just short form content based on, and I say that based off of the things that Josh had made, you know, separately, the stuff that we had made separately. Short form content is hard. It's hard to like be entertaining, and it's weirdly harder to grab someone's attention for a 5-minute thing than I think for a 90-minute thing, because you just have more room creatively to, I think, in a longer form. For me, my brain functions better in that sense, whereas with a short form piece, you have to be so you have to be able to let go of the things you're not showing or saying in short form, whereas in long form you can like, oh, I can place that here, you know what I mean, and, you know, kind of be able to fulfill everything you're trying to do creatively. So I guess to answer that question, for me, I think short form content is much different, because you have to say so much more with so much less than long form. And that's really tough. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, and also from just between those two on the technical side of it, weirdly, like the way that we always thought about it, even in approaching it, is like there is no difference here. You're still trying to solve a puzzle, no matter what. Like yeah, sure, it's a bigger puzzle, but you know, whether you're on a $5 set or a $5 million set, whatever it is, you're still solving the same thing. So there's something that's almost like comforting in that, like that, you know, that Spielberg will still have the same problem as you do on your set. And it's probably going to also get figured out the same way. Maybe they have a little bit more resources, but like, you know, that's the beauty of filmmaking, is it's all the same kind of puzzle.
I'll also quickly add too that like the one thing that Josh and I definitely brought to the table in doing our first feature length project, what from our short form experience, was we were able to look at each scene as its own little, like, that's how we approached it. You know, it's like, obviously you have to look at the piece as one big whole and how it's all going to work together. But when you're filming and you're actually in production and you're just focusing on one scene, it was sort of like, okay, well, this one scene right now is a sketch. And what's the game of this scene? And how are we executing this scene to be as funny and to be as strong as possible? And that's kind of how we approached it, in a piece by piece way. And I think we brought our short form experience in that sense.
Yeah, I had one filmmaker tell me when I was interviewing him, writer director, he said that, you know, whether you make, you know, to Josh's point, whether you make a $100,000 movie or a $100 million movie, you're going to work just as hard either way. So
totally.
Yeah. I wish I remembered the name. Now I'm gonna feel terrible. Okay. And yeah, it was when I was brunching with Spielberg.
Brunching
on the Lanai. So this being your first feature, it's been received pretty well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, we've been like, because the movie's trying to say so much, and we know that, like, it obviously takes some twists and turns, and it doesn't necessarily follow the normal, like, hero's journey. Like, we really got weird with it and whatnot in terms of structure. So yeah, I think, for us, it was like, oh, are people going to get what we're trying to say, even though we kind of hit it on the head a little bit. Like, we were still worried that people wouldn't connect with it, and we were so pleasantly surprised to see that people, and how could you not in today's world kind of thematically kind of connect with this, the frustrations that the movie is putting forward of kind of our dog eat dog society. So we were very relieved.
We were also, I mean, domestically, we had a pretty great festival run, within the genre film festival circuit and just the indie film circuit in general. But internationally, I mean, we played half of our festival. I think we played 20 festivals last year, and about 8 or 10 of them were international. And like, Brazil, Portugal, Spain, like we were all over the map. A couple of places in the UK, which that wasn't as surprising because they get the dark humor for sure. But it was cool to see like other countries that connected with the humor of it all, the darkness of it all, the humor of it all, and sort of the societal themes of it. It was cool. It was definitely pretty surreal for us, I think.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you guys are both fans of the genre, and that there were some influences. Can you name a few?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, right off the bat, but I mean, you can tell watching the movie that we brought Hitchcock to the table pretty quickly there with Psycho, and also I think just in terms of the way the movie looks, which Josh, I'll let you speak to that, but like Hitchcock was a big one. Also, the Coen brothers, in terms of writing, the Coen brothers were a huge influence for us. The way that they play with the genre of farce and build ensembles that are based around characters and worlds that are just set up to fail. And that was huge for us, the Coen brothers, both Fargo and Burn After Reading. The structure of those movies and the ensemble, the way those ensembles were kind of pieced together, was very big for us.
I'm so glad you said Burn After Reading and not Lady Killers.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Burn After Reading, which I think is a little underappreciated.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And Devin nailed it on the head. That's exactly kind of who we were modeling it after, and kind of like, wanting to, again, even through production design and whatnot, express as much theme as possible. And that's why, the movie's bathed in red throughout. And, even in our blocking and our, like, even in the minute stuff that people might not notice the first time through, the way that characters are staged and stuff like that, kind of going back to that kind of old Hitchcockian kind of style of Hollywood filmmaking, where it's like, it's not about the camera moving more so than it is about where the actors are placed. So yeah, we were definitely pulling from a couple different places, but those two for sure, just marrying those two.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. So what's coming up next for you guys?
That's a great question. I think we're both, I mean, the two of us have a few different things that we're working on in terms of just that are in the writing phase. We don't have any set plans with them just yet. We're, hoping to, get another feature off the ground in the near future if we can, but we're always going to play within the genre comedy blend of comedy and genre, whether that's horror and thriller. I think we're gonna be sticking with things that are very rooted in theme and thematically based, again, being so inspired by the Coen brothers and being able to play with offbeat humor and offbeat characters, all to kind of say something. So we have a couple of ideas that are pretty fresh ideas early on, but we're hoping to get our next feature going as soon as possible.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I do hope, keep making movies.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Keep going. You're doing fine. Keep going.
That's so nice.
That means so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you guys, it's about time for me to go, but I really appreciate you chatting with me, coming on, talking about your film. Everybody Keeping Company comes out VOD June 7th. Okay, so check it out.
Check it out. Thanks for having us.
Check it out. Thank you so much.